Hello and welcome to the Business Demo. As you can hear, I'm not feeling that well today. My voice is still a bit crackling as I've been sick this week. But that's not relevant. Normally in today's episode I would have talked about who I am, what made me a marketeer, what is it I'm doing. But I'm not doing that. First of all, due to me being ill, I don't want to do that today, so it will be for next week's episode. But the second is because I want to talk about a major thing. How does a startup fail in current day and age? And for that, let's take an example. Klarna. Klarna is very famous. It's a brand that works in investments. Like, for instance, you have Bankcontact or you have Visa. They are a direct rival to it. It's a way to pay. But Klarna was a very big startup. It was actually predicted to be at 60 billion US dollars last year in 2022, but it only kept itself at 6.7 billion nowadays. Why is this? Why does this company go boom and fail? Well, it's actually all because of investment. Investors, they stick their money into a project they back up, something they believe in. And this also makes companies want to do growth hacking. It is the best way to show off in a short period how much your company has grown and how much potential is in there. And that's what a lot of startups are doing nowadays. They use as their main strategy growth hacking. But they don't supplement it with a long-term strategy. So they are good for a short term to a mid-term, but not for a long term. And this is why I give as advice, stick to a long-term strategy and use growth hacking as a supplement to it, not as the main strategy. So, let's talk about what goes wrong with these types of growth hacking. So, if you take growth hacking, you can get final results within short period. Let's say within a month, within 3 months, within a year, you get amazing results. It skyrockets, really. But it has a limit. And with Klarna, what they didn't know was that they need to do risk analysis and also have risk strategies at hand. For instance, let's look at what was important last year and what made them go from going up here to going down here. Well, China. China was a major conflict area last year in the business environment, and a lot of investors didn't want their money to be stuck in that region. So when Klarna invested a lot of money in hiring new employees all across the globe, giving them above industry standard benefits, and doing major investments in those markets, especially in China, the investors weren't happy. They wanted their money back. So they withdrew their investments instead of aiding new investments that were foreseen. That's the reason why Klarna, even though it's still a big startup at $6.7 billion, actually lost so much money. It's only at a tenth of what it should be. And it's all because of that growth hacking strategy. So, what does this mean for a startup that wants to get new investors? What do they need to do so that they don't go boom? Well, first of all, they can use a growth hacking strategy, but only as a supplement. Think of a long-term strategy first. What is your end goal? What added value do you want to bring? Who are your competitors? Are there competitors or will there be future competitors? All of these things you need to think about right now. So, the fact is, a company isn't only based on an idea. You need to have an idea that works for people. The why. Why does this work? Why do we want to offer this to people? Why are we what we are? That's the question you need to ask yourself when you do your startup. And that's also a question that an investor would ask you. Why do I want to invest? What added value do you bring to the world and to me? What is my return on investment? The big W questions. This can only be done if you have a long-term strategy. You need to have a short-term. What are our goals for this year? You need to have a mid-term. What are our goals for in the next 5 years? But also, what is a long-term? How do we see ourselves standing in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, etc.? You don't want a company for a couple of years. You want a company for the long run. And this is my advice for startups nowadays. When you do your startup, start with a long-term strategy. Think about what benefits you bring to the people. Make that your major point. Then use growth hacking as a supplement to actually achieve your short-term goals, and then cap it off. Don't use growth hacking all the way. Cap it off when you're at your max and stick with your main strategy, your long-term strategy. Because that is the only way your investors will stay loyal to you and you won't break your capital chain. You will not leave the vicious circle of debt. And that's my advice to you as a startup. So hope you enjoyed it, and for next week we will talk about who I am and what I do. Thank you for listening.